Okay. I want to welcome everyone to the July 15th, 2021 Zoning Hearing Officer meeting. I'm Lisa Grote, and I'm the San Mateo County Zoning Hearing Officer. And before we get started with today's meeting, the first thing we always do is begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will stand and join me in the pledge. Deb?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, Deb. Before we get started with the first item, there is an opportunity for oral communications. And this is the time if you would like to speak to an item that is not on the agenda or speak to an issue that is not on the agenda. Now would be the time to do that. And Janeth, I'll ask you to let people know how they can participate in oral communication should they want to.
Thank you, Lisa. For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raised hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment period, and for each item on the regular agenda, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raised hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raised hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your account and you may begin speaking. And right now, I don't see any hand raised for public comment at the moment for items not on the agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, since there are no oral communications or public comment at this point, we will go into item number 1 on our regular agenda, and that is owner Sarah Armstrong, applicant John Merritt, EMC, file number PLN 2007-00469. It's at 7400 Stage Road in San Gregorio, and the assessor's parcel number is 081-240-020. And Brian Albini is the project planner, and Brian's going to start with an overview staff report and recommendation. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, good morning, members of the public, staff, and zoning hearing officer. Again, this is just a use permit renewal for an existing wireless telecommunications site operated by Verizon Wireless. The existing infrastructure consists of 3 monopoles with 6, with 6-foot panels on each of the poles, an existing 800 square foot equipment area. The context of the site is a rural agriculturally zoned property, and there are other telecom facilities that are also existing on the site. There are no proposed modifications to the existing equipment. This is an overview of the panels and the monopole equipment. And this is the site plan for the 800 square foot lease area. As I mentioned previously, there's no modifications. And that's why this project is exempt under CEQA for the continued operation of existing public or private facility. The recommendation is for the zoning hearing officer to approve the use permit renewal for the continued operation of an existing wireless telecommunication facility based on the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Now would be the time if the applicant is present, if he or she would like to make any additional comments. I do
see a hand raised. Do you see that, Lisa?
I do.
Ending in 0123, so that might be. Let me go ahead and unmute. Hi, can you hear us?
I don't.
Hi.
Good morning, John Merritt for American Tower. ATC Sequoia is the operating entity. And we want to thank Planner Brian Albini for his great work with this and getting to this point. Brian, as you know, we communicated back on the conditions of approval, and we just had a few minor exceptions that we wanted to request, please. More just housekeeping items. On condition number 7, it's indicated that there is no lighting associated with the facility. We do have a small 100-watt bulb work light at the door of the shelter, which obviously is only activated during emergency hours if we had to work on the site at night. So we wanted to see if you could please modify condition 7 to include that small work light. On condition 8, we are certainly amenable to making any space available to the county for its internal communications or public safety equipment. However, we would request that should any space be made available, it would be charged to the county as with any other tenant at the available market rate. We do point out that this is what's called a stub mount site with only 10-foot high poles, so there's really no tower to co-locate on. But we'd like that modification, please, to apply market rate to any rent under condition 8.
Just for a point of clarification, John, those earlier drafts that you had made note of were amended and did not include that language for a co-location condition. So I apologize if that final version wasn't forwarded to you in time, but those notes that you had passed on to me were incorporated into the final published staff report.
Oh, very good, Brian. Yeah, we had not seen the revision. Thank you for including those, and we assume that also includes our comment on condition number 9, just regarding painting.
Correct. The condition for the paint colors, John, are for the maintenance, periodic maintenance, that those colors be maintained. As you're aware, this is in a coastal area, and those paints will fade over time. It's only a condition as part of the overall use permit that somebody be watching the facility and keeping up repairs and maintenance, and that's why that language just for the color specification on the equipment is there. It's not for a mandate that the painting occur now.
Oh, very good. We just want to clarify, of course, that the equipment shelter is tan. It's not really seen from the road, and we didn't want to have to repaint that dark green as specified. So thank you for including that revision, Brian.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's only for the monopoles that was originally conditioned.
Yes, understood. Well, thank you. Those are our only comments. We welcome any questions that the hearing officer may have.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we will circle back to talk about both those conditions, because I see some wording that I think we may want to talk about a little bit more in condition 7. But before we do that, let's see if there is any public comment. Is anyone present who would like to make a public comment on the project?
So I only see one other person on the call for this item. If they desire to speak, then please raise your hand now.
Okay, I don't see that person raising their hand. So, but if that person does raise their hand, there will be opportunity to comment, because I had a couple of questions for Brian and the project applicant on condition 7. I do see where you're talking, Brian, about the amended wording, but it looks like it's just a partial sentence. It says the existing work light for the equipment facility door, and then there's a period. But I'm assuming you meant to say the existing work light for the equipment facility door shall be allowed, or something to that effect.
Correct. I apologize if that wasn't made more clear.
Okay.
The existing doorway light would remain, but no. I think the intent of the original condition was no uplighting on the monopoles themselves, or kind of exterior street lighting around the equipment shed. Wanted to keep that condition in place in order to maintain the original use permit for visual obstructions.
Okay. Now, this is a question to both Brian and the applicant. Would it be acceptable then to modify that last sentence to read, the existing work light for the equipment facility door shall remain and shall be used for emergency purposes? Does that sound right? Or do you want to say for emergency and maintenance purposes?
I think we'd prefer that you include maintenance. Obviously, during winter season, sun sets a lot earlier, and it may be possible that our technician, or Verizon's technician, may be out during normal working hours, but it may be getting dark. So we'd like to not limit that to emergency, just any work that needs to be done during hours of darkness.
Okay, okay.
And obviously, technicians would prefer not to work in the dark.
Yeah, right. Understood. Okay, sounds good. So I think then it'll read, the existing work light for the equipment facility door shall remain and shall be used for emergency and maintenance purposes.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, sounds great. And then on now what is condition 8, which has to do with the colors, it says the applicant shall be responsible for painting and or maintaining the antennas, monopole, and equipment cabinets in the originally approved color and painted a dark green as needed to blend in with the surrounding vegetation. And then it goes on to talk about finishes being non-reflective. Do we want to put something in about the equipment cabinets being tan rather than dark green? I was hearing a comment from the applicant that I guess the equipment cabinets now are tan.
Well, actually, it was
they will always
the
been
shelter
tan.
to which we were referring that is a tan color. And yes, we would request that you delete, and I thought I had done that, Brian, on our comments, delete the words "and equipment cabinets." We emphasize that none of the ground-mounted equipment within the compound is actually visible. I believe the intent on condition number 9 is to refer to the antenna poles and antennas themselves.
That's correct.
And we certainly concur that those should remain painted dark green.
Okay.
But
I accept that modification too. If you want to eliminate the equipment cabinet terminology and keep the rest of the language consistent,
Okay.
I totally agree.
Okay. So it'll say the applicant shall be responsible for painting and or maintaining the antennas and monopole in the originally approved color and painted dark green. Okay. Does that sound right? Okay.
yes, that sounds good. Actually, there are no outdoor cabinets. There's a shelter, a prefab shelter that's tan color, and a generator, which is essentially gray. And then, of course, the landlord has a water tank there that's green, but that's presumably not relevant to this hearing.
Right, correct. Okay, all right. Well, I think that was it. I think those were the 2 comments we had talked about, or you had mentioned in your comments. So any other questions about the conditions of approval from the applicant? You understand them and agree with them?
We do. Most of them replicate the original conditions, and we are certainly in agreement with those.
Okay, great. And then just one last question for Brian. This has basically been operating for over 10 years, right? Without complaint or incident, is what I'm reading from the staff report.
That's correct. No, there was an additional monopole added in 2014, but there haven't been any minor modifications or antenna additions since that time, and no anticipated change.
Okay, great, thanks. And then I'll just ask one more time, Janeth, do you see anyone with their hand raised? I don't, for comment.
You're correct. There is none.
Okay, great. All right. Well, since there is no public comment, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and issue a written approval based on the findings and the modified conditions as we just talked about this morning. And that letter should go out this afternoon or tomorrow morning. So I want to thank Brian and the applicant and Janeth and Deb for your work on the hearing. And I think we are done for today. I'll close the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Waiting for it, Brian. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.